Okay, today I'm going to talk about how you might want to use a collocation dictionary to help during writing courses. It's a method that I've used before and that I've tried to train teachers in whenever I can because this method can help your struggling students, your students who are their sentences are short and we want to improve their sentence length and their word choice may be unnatural. We want to get them more natural sounding more natural sounding sentences. It can help them achieve those two goals. So I'm going to be using this free collocation.com dictionary today. There are probably a couple others out there, but most collocation dictionaries are not free and they're a little bit difficult to use. So most of you probably have never hit a collocation dictionary before, and I'm familiar with them. We used to, before I was a teacher, I was a linguist and translator, so there's a collocation and corpuses and things like that are part of that job. So I was familiar with them. What is a collocation dictionary? It's uh, it's a dictionary that takes a large body called a corpus. Corpus means body. A large body of text. So it may be a lot of a lot of internet sourced discussion, or it may be scans of scientific texts. It may be very broad recordings, transcripts of recordings of conversations, natural conversations between people, or it may be very narrow, only dealing with organic chemistry texts or something like that. A corpus can be however broad or however narrow someone wants. And generally, if you're going to have a collocation dictionary, they're very broad and they're not specific, domain specific corpuses, corpi. But we want a broad one. And so you should differentiate between collocation dictionaries that are from corpuses, I'm going to say corpuses and not corpi, okay? That are corpuses from written text and corpuses that are from spoken text, because you want to use the one that is more appropriate for the goal. So if you're writing a speech, you'll probably want to use a corpus that comes from speaking, and if you're writing a fairly formal piece, you'll want a corpus that comes from writing. So they take this large number of conversations or texts or whatever they are, and they analyze them, generally using a computer, to find the most commonly collocated words that are next to each other. So what's the context of a word? What kinds of words come next to it, and how often? And then we have to take that data that we get, and we have to organize it. And you'll see how it's organized here in a minute. So the reason I like to use it is it's very useful for non-proficient writers to make natural sounding word choices. If we look at free collocation, the website looks like this. That's OSDIC, I'm sorry. Here's our online collocation dictionary from free collocation. So it has a little bit of a search that you can do, and it will give you the commonly collocated words, and we'll see how that works. We're going to work with an example sentence that a student might have. If I'm teaching vocabulary, like a vocabulary list to a student in a writing kind of context, I'll often want to copy and paste these or help the students somehow get access to this information so that they can use those during sentence writing. But so here's a really simple sentence. I had a good idea, and there's nothing wrong with this sentence. But if we're trying to develop writers and writing that sounds above the second grade level, maybe we're teaching middle school or high school students, and we really want to push them into something there. We can start with this word idea, which you see I've already put in here. I prepared for this, so I've already searched. But then when we search here, we get a dictionary entry, which looks a little bit like dictionary entries that maybe you've seen, except it doesn't have the meaning for the word idea. We assume that we already know the word for idea. So we'll have lists of words that commonly go together. So here's our first set, which is all the adjectives that are used to modify idea. Bright idea, brilliant idea, clever idea, excellent idea over here, and some different, those are all positives, right? Valuable, worthwhile idea, inspirational idea, and we have a sample sentence here to see how that gets used, because sometimes it's not really clear what the location of that adjective might be. You'll see this is, you might think that's a strange comment, but when we get down below, you'll see why they have these sample sentences. So fresh, new idea, absurd, ridiculous idea. There's a good one. Ridiculous idea. Crackpot, crazy, mad, outlandish, right? Half-baked. Oh, I had a half-baked idea. That automatically makes this sentence, elevates it, right? So that's just from this first section. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to retype this sentence. We're going to iterate over this. When English teachers say, I don't want a low value word like good idea, this has already answered that common problem. Don't give me a low value word. Don't give me a cheap word. Brilliant idea. That already elevates that sentence. Let's see what else we can do with it. We can look through here and it can give us lots of ideas. So we have the word have, which is the most common, but some other things, some other verbs that go with idea are come up with an idea, hit upon an idea, produce, think up, draw, get. So I think we should use this hit on, hit upon. That's not it. A hit upon brilliant idea. All right, so this sentence from I had a good idea to I hit upon a brilliant idea is already up several grade levels, right? Let's see what else we can do here. We have the idea plus a verb. Now, I'm not really clear what that means. Come into somebody's head. An idea comes into somebody's head. Let's look at the example sentence here. The idea for the invention came to him in the bath. Okay, this will really restructure our sentence. Maybe I'll come back to this one, but this would make idea the subject of the sentence, which is probably better than an I. But let's go ahead and come back to this at the end. What kind of ideas can we have? Idea about something, idea for something, idea of something. Let's go ahead and a brilliant idea hit upon. And then when I look back here, we'll see that here I had the idea of advertising on the internet. So I'm going to change this preposition from A to based on the sample sentence. Idea of going surfing. Okay, I hit upon the brilliant idea of going surfing. So here we've got one more step in making this sentence, develop this sentence into something longer and more mature. Let's see. We're open to ideas, glimmering of an idea. So this one looks like it might work, and if I were a student, I think that would be the German of an idea. Let's go ahead. I've already got brilliant, and then let's change this of to so we don't have too many ofs. Okay. And I'm trying to look at this through the lens of a language learner, so they're not always going to make perfect choices. Okay. But that this allows them to develop sentences and have some, instead of getting some kind of amorphous suggestion like, oh, can you think of, from the English teacher, can you think of a better adjective than good? What other adjective can you use than good? Can you, extend that sentence? We give our students concrete ways for them to do that. Here's our preposition of again, but again, idea of fun. Okay, so I think we 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 can come back to this top here. Just come into my head, and we will see if we can restate this so that I is not the subject. There we go. So even though we ended up getting rid of this hit upon, these two sentences here are both beautiful and both significantly longer, more developed than this first sentence. And generally, when I teach a student to do this, we have a lot of modeling involved. We have to teach them how to use this. We'll go through the same kind of process with them. I'll do it once in a very I, we, you way. I'll come up with a sentence, and then I'll show them how to do it. And then as a class, we'll do it, and then they might do it in groups, and then I might release them to do it once again on their own. Maybe 3 or 4 times to get them comfortable with how to work on improving their sentences, and they get a lot of practice with the tools that we're using. So let me write that down. The methods that I'll do this first time will be I do, I demonstrate. The second is, so we may do it as a whole class, where I ask for input from the class, and then maybe guide the answers to something a little bit more constructive. We may do it in groups where the students have another sentence and I'll provide the sentence. And then the final thing that we'll do is release to individual work where they'll try it on their own. And this is when I'm first teaching how to do it. So we may have to intentionally teach how to do this a couple of times before I can just say, all right, so now we've got our writing. I need a paragraph. I want you to use the collocation dictionary to help you expand, lengthen your sentences, come up with more adjectives, more descriptors, etc. So I hope this has helped you understand how it's possible to use a collocation dictionary to teach writing. Thank you very much for your time.